I stood frozen in the middle of the community hall when my name was called, not with respect, but with a sneer sharp enough to cut skin. The word echoed wrong, twisted like it didn't belong to me anymore. The microphone crackled as if it enjoyed the moment, and with every burst of static came another accusation hurled in my direction, stones thrown by people who knew exactly where to aim. I didn't even try to dodge. I couldn't. Silence wrapped around me like a chokehold, and they mistook it for guilt. I could hear relatives whispering, not even bothering to lower their voices, feeding off each other's certainty that I was already condemned. I looked toward Aunty. Her eyes were lowered, lashes heavy, her face unreadable. She looked smaller somehow, like she was shrinking away from the moment, retreating into herself. Phones were raised all around me, tiny red lights blinking, recording my humiliation from every possible angle. I could feel the heat of it, the attention pressing down on my chest. The family spokesperson stepped forward and began listing my so-called failures like punchlines, each one delivered for the crowd's amusement. Laughter broke out when I tried to open my mouth, when my side of the story was waved away without a second thought. My mouth filled with the taste of metal, bitter and sharp, and that's when it hit me. This wasn't spontaneous. This was deliberate. The room smelled of incense and sweat, a sacred space poisoned, transformed into a courtroom without a judge, without mercy. I searched Aunty's face again, desperate for even a flicker of support, but she remained silent, distant, as if she were already somewhere else. Someone shouted that silence was confession. The crowd agreed instantly. Their verdict didn't need deliberation. I walked out alone, my dignity stripped layer by layer, knowing deep in my bones that something darker had been set in motion. As I stepped into the night, memories flooded me. I remembered the years I trusted Aunty more than my own parents. When chaos erupted at home, she was the one who pulled me aside, who taught me how to stay quiet, how to survive storms by becoming invisible. Her silence had once been my shelter during family wars and whispered scandals that crawled through the house like insects. I remembered nights when she held my hand in the dark and told me patience was power, that time always revealed what noise tried to hide. The first betrayal surfaced in my mind, small at the time, easy to excuse in the name of peace. I had been taught to absorb pain so others could look clean, to carry burdens that didn't belong to me. Family loyalty was drilled into me as obedience, not protection. I saw now how often my voice had been traded for harmony I never felt. I had believed Aunty's sacrifices shaped me out of love, that her quiet was kindness. But the pattern of silence started to look different in hindsight, less loving, more strategic. I realized how many decisions had been made over my head, how often my fate had been negotiated without my presence. That humiliation in the hall didn't feel sudden anymore. It felt rehearsed, like the final act of a very long rehearsal. After that day, rumors spread faster than truth ever could. They twisted and mutated until they barely resembled reality. Legal notices started arriving, crisp envelopes that tightened the trap around my life with every delivery. Friends stopped calling. Some blocked me outright, afraid my name would stain theirs. When I confronted relatives privately, I was met with rehearsed ignorance, practiced confusion, faces that pretended nothing was wrong while everything burned. Then my financial accounts froze without explanation. Just like that, I was cornered, cut off, stripped of independence. Desperation pushed me to start digging through old documents Aunty had once guarded fiercely, files she never let anyone touch. Dates didn't align, signatures repeated in patterns that felt intentional. The more I looked, the clearer it became that this wasn't random. I started noticing Auntie watching me now, not with comfort, but with calculation, like she was measuring how close I was to breaking. Her silence grew heavier, intentional, almost threatening. Behind closed doors, I could feel the family aligning against me, forming a wall I couldn't see but could feel pressing in. The humiliation shifted from emotional to existential. That's when I understood it wasn't chaos, it was choreography. Late one night, my phone rang. An unfamiliar number lit up the screen. I almost ignored it. Something told me not to. The voice on the other end belonged to a former family lawyer, and he spoke my name carefully, like it carried danger. He told me there were documents I had never seen, filings Auntie had made years ago, quietly, legally, without anyone noticing. Her silence, he said, was never absence. It was preparation. He explained how assets, testimonies, and contingencies had been placed like chess pieces long before the game was visible. Auntie had anticipated this exact betrayal. She had protected evidence while letting me absorb the blame, letting the family expose itself fully. Rage and awe collided inside me as her method became clear. Every quiet moment replayed in my mind with new meaning. The power shifted the instant I gained access to the truth. Her plan required my pain to trigger its final stage. When the lawyer asked if I was ready to move forward, I said yes without hesitation. There was no return now. The formal hearing was called soon after, this time with real authority in the room. I entered steadier than I ever thought possible, carrying proof instead of shame. The same people who had mocked me couldn't meet my eyes. Documents were presented one by one, unraveling years of manipulation with surgical precision. Financial trails led directly to those who had accused me the loudest. Then Auntie finally spoke. Her voice was calm, devastatingly precise. She explained how silence had allowed greed to reveal itself fully, how patience had been her weapon. Gasps replaced laughter as roles reversed publicly. The legal verdict landed heavy, redistributing power and accountability without mercy. I watched faces crumble as consequences became unavoidable. The humiliation I endured was mirrored back at them, but this time it was earned. Justice didn't feel warm, it felt cold, exact, and irreversible. Afterward, the family fractured under the weight of exposed truth. Apologies came, but they were hollow, stripped of sincerity. My name was cleared legally, though the scars remained. Auntie and I shared a quiet moment without words. In that silence, I finally understood the cost of her strategy. Peace felt unfamiliar, almost suspicious. Still, I reclaimed control over my finances and my future. Some relationships ended permanently, others faded on their own. I grieved the person I had been before the silence broke. Healing didn't begin with forgiveness, it began with clarity. I stepped into a life no longer dictated by fear. Silence no longer owned me. Now I reflect on how silence is so often mistaken for weakness. I speak directly about the danger of underestimating quiet people, about how revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes it waits, sometimes it watches. This revenge wasn't loud, but it was final. Patience, when weaponized with intention, becomes unstoppable. I warn you about family betrayal hidden behind tradition, about the emotional cost of winning this way. I honor the complexity of Auntie's long silence, and I reclaim my voice after years of suppression. If you've ever been surrounded by quiet and wondered what it meant, question it. Truth moves slowly, but it always arrives. Thank you for listening to a story born from endurance. And if you've ever been underestimated, like, share, and subscribe.